Hello, this is Josh from Breezy Willows. I picked up this accordion from Craigslist today so that we can make a video about how to buy a used accordion from Craigslist. Before we get into that, let's look at what we've covered in our previous videos from this series, how to buy your first accordion. If you're someone who's thinking about buying your first accordion, definitely check out this video series. We start from a general introduction to the instrument, and we then look at the size of the instrument by looking at the size of the keyboard, how heavy can your accordion get, and the number of sets of reeds or the voices that you need to go for, and the number of bass buttons that you have to get, and the type of tuning that you need to get, whether you need to get wet tuning or dry tuning. And all of these options might feel a little bit confusing for somebody who's new to an accordion. In this video, we're going to look at how to buy a good entry-level accordion that is affordable. I'm planning to make this as a 3-part video. In this video, we're going to look at buying an accordion from Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace or any other local marketplace. In the next video, we'll be looking at how to buy accordions online from an online marketplace like eBay or Reverb. The final option that we'll be looking at, the one that I'd recommend, is to buy an accordion directly from an accordion dealer. If you're somebody that's new to accordions and you're looking for your first instrument, a word of advice is to avoid Craigslist and eBay and get your accordion from an accordion dealer. You will end up paying more, but the odds are that you'll be with an instrument that you'll be happy with. So if you're within driving distance of a specialized shop that deals with accordions, I'd strongly recommend you go there, check out their options, and you'd have somebody that's knowledgeable in the store who'd be able to find an accordion that's the right fit for you. There are a variety of reasons why you'd want to consider a local marketplace like Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. This might be because there's no accordion shop near the place that you live. Even in that case, I'd ask you to consider buying an accordion online from an accordion dealership. Unfortunately, accordions are very expensive instruments, and the option to buy a decent sized, new, good quality instrument that is also affordable does not exist. Take guitars, for example. You can walk into a guitar center and pick a Yamaha acoustic guitar for under $200, and it's a very good instrument. You could even buy these instruments online without having to worry about fit or quality, because these guitars are standardized and you could read hundreds of reviews for some of the popular models and you know what you're getting. And you won't be making a big compromise on workmanship on this instrument, and it's a full-sized guitar that even grown-ups can play. But if you look at accordions, for $150, I don't think there even exists a kid-sized instrument that is not a toy that you could buy for under $200. The equivalent of the $150 Yamaha guitar would be the Honor Bravo series. A new Honor Bravo 72 bass accordion goes for over $1,500. So that's almost 10 times the price of your entry-level Yamaha guitar. For a beginner, that is a hefty price tag, especially given that you've never played the instrument and you don't really know whether you're gonna like it and keep up with practice. So you don't want to invest $1,500 on something that's gonna be lying on a shelf after the first few days of playing. So buying pre-owned accordions is an option that you definitely want to consider to save some money. The best way to buy a pre-owned accordion is to buy it from a dealership who would have serviced the instrument and would provide you some sort of a warranty or like a trial period after which you could return the instrument, or in the worst case, even if they don't provide you a warranty, you should know that they've already worked on the instrument, and the repairs on those might not be as expensive. But again, the used instrument from the dealership is not going to be as cheap as the Yamaha guitar that we looked at. We're still looking at several $100s in price tag. If you're lucky, you might find something that's good at a dealership for like 300 to 400 bucks, but it's not something that will always be available. So the local marketplace and eBay might sound like very attractive options. You will be looking at accordions that are priced at 100 bucks or 200 bucks or even lower. And a majority of those are accordions that you shouldn't be buying. A typical Craigslist accordion listing will be an instrument that was played by someone's grandma or grandpa in the 50s, and someone discovered it when they were cleaning their attic. An accordion that has not been played for that long is most likely junk. But that doesn't mean that there are no good accordions being sold in Craigslist. It's just that most of the accordions will be instruments that you're better off not buying. You could compare that to like an old car that was abandoned in somebody's yard. So even if you buy it for a very cheap price, for it to be functional, you'll have to spend several $100s or even like $1,000 to fix it up with a repair technician, and it's definitely not worth it. The only reason why somebody would want to fix up an entry-level instrument from the past that has not been played for several decades is if that instrument had some sentimental value for you. If it was played by one of your ancestors and you discovered it and you want to fix that up and play that instrument, then that makes sense. But it doesn't make a lot of sense to buy a 70-year-old instrument for $100 and then take it to a repair tech who practically has to rebuild the entire instrument. Before we actually look at the accordion that I picked up from Craigslist and evaluate it for purchase, I wanted to look at a few listings and see how we can shortlist a particular listing so that we go and check it out and reduce the likelihood that it's going to be a waste of our time. I'm going to search the local listings in San Francisco Bay Area Craigslist, which is near where I live, and see how many accordions we have. And it says that we have about 124 instruments, which is pretty exciting. So the first listing that I see is an accordiona from Excelsior, which was one of their mid-range or entry-level models, I guess. And this, by the way, is definitely a far better instrument than the entry-level Honer that we saw, if it was maintained properly. The first thing I like about this listing is that the seller has included both pictures from the inside and outside, and the pictures of the reed leathers do look nice. And this is not your typical Craigslist listing. So if you're able to like find something like this where the seller is able to add a lot of details, so you see that they say that this is a 4 treble reed tremolo LMMH handmade, which means handmade reeds. So this is something that that you won't find in most listings, because you have to actually know about the instrument to enter specifications like this. They talk about the number of bass registers and treble registers and the length of the keyboard, the weight, and all of that. And they also say that the accordion is nice and clean and does not have any mildew or corrosion. So this is not somebody that's trying to sell their grandparents' instrument. This person clearly knows about the instrument. So these are the instruments that you have to go after, but the price is still a little bit on the expensive side. So you can look for instruments that are more entry level than this. So let me sort by price. And this looks like a typical listing. So it's listed for $1, which I seriously doubt is the price. I believe a lot of people in Craigslist just list the price as $1 so that it shows up at the top when you sort by price. So if you actually look at the listing description, it says that it's for $775, and this is still more expensive than the entry-level Yamaha guitar, but by the looks of it, this looks like it was from the 50s maybe, and Italo-American was based off of Chicago, if I remember correctly, and it was a nice brand. And this looks like it's a 3-reed model, but if you actually look at the listing, you see that there's literally nothing about the specifications of this instrument. They don't talk about the number of keys, the number of bass buttons, the number of registers, or anything like that. And you don't see any pictures from the inside. And the person doesn't really mention anything about the condition of the accordion. So I'd stay away from instruments like this. And it would most likely be a waste of your time if you were to drive all the way to the listing and try it out. So I'm gonna enter a minimum price of $100 so that we can move away from listings like this. And there's a lot of non-accordion listings, so I see something right here, a vintage Corelli Master accordion for $250. So that sounds like a reasonable price. So I look at the pictures, and I don't really see any pictures from the inside, so that's not too impressive. And beautiful vintage Italian made Corelli Master accordion, plays great and in good shape. And you also see that they say that don't know much about its history, and I couldn't find more info on make and model. So this is something that you'll be encountering with a lot of listings on eBay and Craigslist, where the seller would claim that the instrument plays great and sounds beautiful, and they'd also mention that they don't know a lot about accordions. So those are contradictory statements. So let's look at this one, which mentions a 140 bass accordion. So the seller at least knows that the number of bass buttons is an important thing for the accordions. So by Colombo & Sons has a palm switch, which is another feature of the accordion, clean in and out. So if the seller is being honest, at least they've opened it up to look at it to see that it is clean. And no sticky keys or buttons, comes with a hard case made in 1920s. Materials are solid but needs new belts. So it has a little bit of details, but it's the accordion looks pretty old looking at the design. I'd say this is from the 20s. Yeah, the listing also mentions that this is from the 20s. And if it had not been serviced, I seriously doubt that this will be in playable condition. So let me see. So the straps being worn out is not that big a deal, because you can always buy new straps, and that's not something that is hard to get for shoulder straps. But for the bass button straps that is not as straightforward to replace. So I see that this person has included pictures of the reed blocks, and from this angle they actually don't look that bad. So I don't really see any bad curling in the leather. So let's look at the next one. Beautiful vintage accordion in working order. Vintage accordion with bellows in good condition, marks and blemishes consistent with age of an item, so we don't really have to worry about marks and blemishes on the outside. Some button stick, and so this is what I meant. Like there will be a lot of contradictions here. Like it's in working order, but the buttons stick. So how are you supposed to play an accordion that has sticky buttons? And comes with case that shows wear, and we have pictures from different angles, but we don't really have any pictures from the inside, so definitely not gonna drive to go check this one out, and for this price, definitely not. So Titano is actually a really good brand to look for if you're buying an old accordion. These were pretty popular back in the day, and Italian made, nice brand. So if it's got good maintenance on it, this will definitely be a good instrument. So Titano 120 bass button accordion with beautiful pearloid finish. Made in Italy, 5 treble registers and 2 bass registers. All of the keys work well with good response. Bellows are tight and good compression and no leaks. Straps and case are in working order but show signs of wear. The accordion itself, though, is in very good playing condition for its age. So this seller definitely sounds like they know what are the attributes in an accordion that you have to look for. And so based on the listings that we looked at, I'd probably go check this one out. Although the pictures don't show anything from the inside, I'd say that this person seems to be familiar with accordions, and they're talking about bellows being tight, which means that there are no leaks in the bellows, and with good compression, which is practically the same thing, and no leaks. So it's yeah, all of the three I'd interpret it as exactly the same thing. And they say that the keys work well with good response, so definitely something that I'll go check out. So long story short, what we are looking for is a listing by somebody that actually plays the accordion and has been playing that instrument on a regular basis, and not trying to sell an accordion that has been abandoned for decades. So this one, the one that we looked at first, the Accordiana, that looks like a really good listing. But it's on the more expensive side for somebody that wants to buy their first instrument. So of all the things that we looked right now, the one that I would go and try out would be the Titano, which doesn't really have any pictures of the inside. The description of the listing makes me a little bit more optimistic compared to like the other listings that we saw. It's time for the test drive. Let's say you looked at this particular listing and you wanted to go check this out. So what are the inspections that I would do on this accordion to decide whether I want to buy it or not? The first thing would be a shake test. This is something that was a recommendation from a well-respected senior member of the accordion community. It's just to pick the accordion up and gently move it around and make sure the bellows are snapped and they don't fall off, to see if there are any loose moving parts inside of the accordion. And you don't have to like shake it vigorously, it's just a gentle movement, tilt it in different angles, and make sure you don't hurt your back because a lot of these instruments are pretty heavy, so take it easy. So I don't really hear any loose parts inside of the accordion, so that's a good sign. So the next test would be to just look at the accordion and inspect it for any damages or cracks. This one might sound pretty obvious, but believe me, I never even thought about this until recently, where I got a very expensive accordion from a local listing which played pretty good, sounded good, and it was a well-known brand. But after I got back home, I noticed that there was a giant crack running from the feet all the way in for about 3 inches, and on the other side as well. And there were 2 more cracks over here. So it didn't even cross my mind that I had to inspect it for damages from the outside. So that is something that would be wise to do. So just look at the body to see if there are any signs of damages or cracks. So I don't really see any here. And I see that this accordion has the bellows hold missing on the top side. So you can see that there's one on the bottom side, but this one's missing on the top side, which is actually a pain. It'll be a big inconvenience if you're not able to like close the accordion on the top when you want to stop playing. So it's not that expensive to replace. So even if you're not comfortable doing that, taking this to an accordion shop and getting new bellows hold is not gonna cost that much. So this is something that wouldn't necessarily disqualify this accordion for from a purchase, but it's a minor pain. And I also see that the accordion does not have any straps. So and in most cases you'd see like older accordions have straps that are like so worn out, and given how easy it is to like buy new straps, you can just buy them on eBay or from like a dealer. I don't really think the straps are a major factor when you want to evaluate the accordion. So I have some new straps here that I'm gonna put on this one. I did notice like some scratches on the body here, which is a blemish, but it doesn't really look like there's any damage to the body of the accordion with this one. So we now have the straps on, and let's adjust the straps to get a better fit. Okay, we have the straps on. So the first thing I'm gonna look at are the register switches. So these switchers have like a mechanism on the inside that moves metal sliders inside of grooves, and they let you choose the voices, the number of voices that will be active on both the treble side and the bass side. So on the bass side, it looks like we have like a toggle switch that toggles between 2 settings, so it's just one switch. And on the treble side, we have 3 switches, which switches between 3 voices. So the thing that we are looking for in the switches, the register switches, is that the switching should be smooth and it shouldn't feel like there's something caught and you're trying to like force your way into the switches. If that happens, you're actually putting a lot of stress on the switch mechanism, which shouldn't happen, and it's very likely that the mechanism could break in the future, or when you try to like force your way into moving the switches. So let me see how this works. Okay, so it doesn't feel too smooth, this one. Yeah, I think this definitely needs work with the sliders and the switching mechanism to free it up so that it could move freely. And it's definitely something that you cannot do by yourself if you're somebody who's new to accordions. So it's something that needs help from a professional service tech, and that's definitely not good. So we don't want to have something like that when you get your new accordion. You're looking for something that could just be picked up and played. So the switches definitely don't look in good condition. So on the bass side, it's actually pretty bad. Yeah, I don't even think I'm able to engage the switch. It's almost stuck. So if you're checking out an accordion and the switches don't switch smoothly, it's better you stay away from it. So we're not playing this yet. So I noticed that the bass strap is pretty loose. So this strap should be like snug enough, but not too tight for you to find it hard to like slide your hands across the bass buttons. But it shouldn't be too loose that it's actually moving when I try to move the bellows in and out. So this is the adjustment that we have, this little wheel here. If you move it outwards away from you, it's supposed to make the bass strap tighter. So this isn't smooth either. It feels like it's stuck, but it's still moving, but it's just that it's not too smooth. So I made the bass straps a little bit more tighter. Okay. And so before you start making any sound with the instrument, make sure that all of the 120 buttons are operational mechanically. I mean, so you should be able to like press them and they should come back up so they don't stick down. And also watch out that all the buttons are actually staying up in the first place before you start pressing any of those, because in some of the accordions, if they've had any impact or something like hit them, the bass buttons would actually be all collapsed down like this and they won't be coming back up. So just press each of the buttons. So you shouldn't feel a lot of resistance. So it's just a spring action. So if you feel like something is stopping your button from going down, that's also a bad sign. But in this accordion so far, all of the buttons seem to be working good. So you don't really have to like play the accordion. And you don't have to really worry about the spring noise that you're hearing. That is normal unless it's too loud. And if you have sticky buttons, run for your lives, because that is not going to be easy repair. You'll have to disassemble the bass machine and clean it out, and you really don't want to be getting something that needs that kind of work. So now we're gonna do the same thing on the keyboard. So on the keyboard, the first thing we want to see is that all the keys are level. So in some of the keyboards, you see that one of the keys got pulled up and it's sticking out. So we want it to be more or less level. So you see that there's this one key that's a little bit misaligned with the other keys, but this isn't something major enough to bother me, but if you'd see like one of the keys is sticking up at an angle like this, that's a bad thing. It could be an easy fix, but that's definitely something that needs to be fixed. So the reason that you might find keys like that is because when somebody tried to put the accordion back in a case, and one of the keys got caught and it got bent. So I don't really see any issues like that on the keyboard. So now we gotta see if there are any sticky keys. So all the keys are coming back up. And one other thing that we want to see is that whenever you press a key, you want to see that it's not rubbing against the key that is right next to it. And sometimes when two keys are like so close to each other and they start rubbing against each other, so when you press one of the keys, the other key actually moves and sometimes gets pressed down completely when you press the other key. But on this keyboard I don't really see any of those issues. All the keys are actually coming back up so far. So mechanically the keys do sound all right, and you want to see how noisy the keyboard is. Like it's not particularly bad for an accordion from this era. Yeah, the next check will be on the bellows. So let's press the air button. You can locate that on the top. So the air button is for releasing the air once you have finished playing your song and you still have air left in your bellows. The air button is used to like close the bellows faster without actually having to play a note. And so this one looks good. So the next test is compression. So we want to see if the accordion is actually leaking any air on both directions. So first I'm going to try to open this a little bit. So before trying to open it, I probably just take my hands off from the accordion and try to see if the accordion opens by itself by the gravitational force. So I see that it's opening a little bit, so this doesn't concern me a lot. So there's a little bit of leak, but that's not something that is outrageous. So I'd be concerned if so let me press the air button here. So if I press the air button, do you see how fast the bellows open? So that's because there's a leak that is caused by the air button. So if there were any leaks on the bellows, you'd see that the moment you take your hands out, the accordion will be like opening much faster than what you see here. And so we also want to check if there are any leaks when we close the accordion. So I'm going to open the accordion with open the bellows with the air button pressed. So now I'm going to let go of the air button and I'm going to gently try to press the bellows. So you shouldn't be doing this too hard because you can't really force the air out if there are no leaks, and you don't want to like put up so much pressure without having any way to release the air. I don't really see any problems with compression, no leaks, and it feels tight enough for an accordion of this age. Another thing that you want to notice when you open and close the bellows with the air button pressed is if there's any musty smell from inside of the accordion. If the accordion was abandoned in an attic or any place where it's very damp, you'd have mold growing inside of the accordion. It's not an easy thing to clean that out, and you want to stay away from accordions that have mold inside. So I don't notice any weird smells from this accordion. So let's get started with the sound check. So we have 3 different switches here, and on the inside of the accordion we have several sets of reeds. So depending on which switch you press, it plays a different set or a combination of different sets. So when we do the sound check, we're gonna repeat it for every position of the switch. So I'm going to go to the first switch, and you should also know that the accordion uses two different reeds to produce a sound for the same key when you play the bellows out and in. So you have to test each key for both bellows directions to actually see whether that reed is functional or not. So you pick a particular register, press the key, and then open the bellows, and then close the bellows. So the first thing that we're going to check is whether both the reeds are functional. So I do hear a sound. The second test is to see whether they are in tune with each other. So it's not going to be perfectly in tune. How much of a drift in pitch do we have here, and is that within your tolerance, is something that you have to make a call on. Because you do need an instrument that sounds nice when you start learning so that you get the motivation to play. Yeah, this particular note is not outrageously out of tune. So you're gonna do the same thing for every key here. And this, I believe, is a compact 41 key instrument. So you're going to do this for all of the white keys and all of the black keys in and out, and for all of the register switches. So you're going to do that 41 times 3 in and out. So another thing that you want to notice is the response itself. So how fast does a reed start? So you can try moving the bellows as soft as you can, really slow, and try to see if it produces a sound. If I don't get a sound, I'm gonna go a little bit harder, and on this particular note the response doesn't seem too bad. And try to play really loud by playing the bellows hard, and try to see how the response is. So there shouldn't be any choking or any weird noises that you hear. So some scratchy noises, so that's mostly because of reed leather issues. Or sometimes there's some debris stuck in the reed block. So for a used accordion, so far from what I've heard on this register switch, I haven't seen anything that's a deal breaker with respect to the reeds, but let's check out all the notes. Yeah, I hear some voicing issues on this note. It feels like the reed is hitting the plate on the side. It's like a metallic noise that you hear. Okay, so there was nothing that was too bad about this register switch, but let's try the next switch, which is the middle reed. Oh, yeah. And as I mentioned earlier, the switch mechanism itself seems like it's showing a lot of resistance to switch, and that's something that will bother me if I'm considering to buy this accordion. So let's look at the next register switch. Yeah. So this definitely does not sound good. It's both out of tune, and the reeds are also not responding well. It's wheezing. first four notes look like they need some work. And it's also using up a lot of air, so it's not even starting. Yeah, the response is really bad. So this reed is not functional when I'm opening my bellows. Yeah, the B flat here, but it works on the other side. So you can see that the reed that is playing when I open the bellows is not sounding. Yeah, looks like that needs some work. I'm not sure if it's blocked or if the leathers are not working. Yeah, so this one has a problem as well. Okay, so this did not sound good at all. So the first register switch was actually pretty good. But the second setting did not sound good at all. I'm gonna play the exact same thing and let's see how this sounds like. So on the outside, this was the only major issue. One of the keys didn't play, but on the other side it sounded pretty bad. Alright, so there's one more setting that we want to try out, and so this one is using both the low and the middle, and I expect it to sound even worse. So let's play something on this just for the sake of playing, and let's see how this sounds like. And we have to do the same just for the bass side as well, but before that I just want to play a song and see how this sounds like. Try that on the clarinet reed. That was not playing really well. So it's charming. It's an old instrument and all, but by looking at what I've seen so far, I don't think this is something that I would like to recommend as a first instrument for anybody. It's got difficulties in playing because of the response on one of the registers, and the register switches themselves have a lot of resistance, and the register switch on the bass side is almost non-operational. Let me try to switch that. So this is the first sound. Yeah, it does work, but it just gives me a feeling that this could break anytime unless we fix this. So let's do a test on the bass side as well. So you got to repeat the exact same thing that we did on the treble side, but on the bass side for now. So 120 buttons. So we try to run through all of them and both directions. So the bass reeds do seem to sound much better than the treble side based on the two rows that I just played. But let's see how this how the rest of them sound Okay, on that front, it looks decent on the left hand side, but the right hand definitely needs work. So how do I make a decision on whether it is worth it to spend, say, $100 on this accordion? So anything more than that, don't even touch it. So if an accordion like this is listed for like $100, you're definitely looking at repairs. So if you just buy this as is, and if you want to play, I don't really recommend it, because all of the work that you put into practice and then you want to like play the song, first of all, it's gonna make your job harder to practice because of all the mechanical issues that the accordion has. The response is not great. You're going to be struggling with the instrument. And when you want to perform this accordion in front of friends or family, it would probably embarrass you because of all the tuning issues that it has and all of the imperfections on the reed. So if you buy this, the only way that you can actually make this work is to actually take this to a professional accordion repair tech, if there's one available in your area. And they're gonna likely charge you like around $70 to $100 just to like inspect the accordion, to give you a report on like things that need to be fixed. And in most shops, if you decide to do the repair with them, they're gonna include the fee that they charged you up front as part of your repair. So if you decide not to do the repair, you don't get any of that money back. So to fix all of this, I am not an experienced repair tech to give you a good enough estimate, but if you're looking at it at the ballpark, I'd say you definitely need tuning on this one. So to make this sound musical enough when you perform on it, I'd say you would have to like do tuning. The keyboard doesn't really need to get rebuilt, but tuning an accordion is not as trivial as tuning guitar or violin, where you just have to like turn a few knobs and you're done. And it's actually more complicated than tuning a piano. because you tune the reeds by scratching them and bringing them to the pitch that is desired. 2 reeds for each bellows direction for 41 keys times the number of voices. So this is a 2-reed instrument, 41 keys times 2 and another times 2 for the bellows in and out. So just for the treble side we have 41 times 4, which is 164 reeds that need to be tuned by taking them out of the reed block and scratching them by manually tuning them and putting them back into the reed block, doing all of the wax work, and also probably replace all of the reed leathers. So that's not a small job. And we're only talking about the keyboard here. So look at the bass side. So maybe this is a 4-voice instrument. So 120 bass buttons doesn't mean that there are 120 reeds for this. So they only have 12 notes that get repeated. So if it's a 4-voice instrument, we have like 4 times 12, which is the number of notes. And for bellows in and out, we have to multiply that by 2. So that's 12 times 4 times 2, which is 12 times 8, 96. So I believe we had 164 on this side and 96 on this side. So that comes out to 260 reeds that need to be tuned and cleaned and redo the leathers and wax them in, and all of that I'd estimate is gonna run you at least a few $100s. So if you were to find a repair tech that is very efficient and also not too expensive, I'd say this would cost you around say around $500 dollars. And so if you look at this, you buy this for $100 and then around $500 to $1,000 of repair work on this one could get you to like closer to playable condition. So there might be other issues there that you want to address. So it will be a total investment of about $700 to $1,000, and you are so even after that you're probably saving about $500 compared to like a brand new 120 bass instrument with 41 keys. So it might work, but you definitely have a lot of unknowns. And they might say that this thing's gonna take $1,500 to fix, and in that case you're much better off buying a new instrument. And another factor that you have to consider is that the repair tech, if you have one that is drivable from your place, will be super busy because there are not a lot of accordion repair technicians around, and most of the techs that I know have like a fully packed schedule with a big backlog, and it'll be weeks or months before they could even take your accordion in for repair, and probably a week or 2 for them to like fix the accordion. So consider all of that. So if you were to like buy an accordion that didn't have any of the issues that we saw in this accordion, that's pretty good for you. So let's say you find something for like $500. The Titano that we saw on the Craigslist listing that was listed for, if I remember correctly, around $300. The seller did describe that it did not have any of these issues that we saw. So if that was a truthful listing, then that is something that will be a very good buy. It saves you a lot of money. It's a good instrument, and Titanos from back in the day were actually pretty good. So they were made by Victoria, and the older Victorias have a very good reputation for being a quality instrument. Same can be said about most Italian brands from the 50s to 70s. To summarize, we haven't looked at everything that you need to know to make a foolproof purchase from your local marketplace, but I believe whatever we discussed in this video would have definitely contributed to like some additional knowledge on how to evaluate accordions or to like avoid buying really bad purchases, because a lot of accordions look very nice from the outside and you play a few notes and it sounds pretty good, but you got to make sure that it's in good playable condition for all of the notes. So I hope that you found this video useful. I'll be making 2 more follow-ups to this video, one for buying used accordions from online marketplaces like eBay or reverb.com, and the third video would be about buying an accordion from a dealership, a used accordion, of course. And we could also talk about options you might have for buying newer accordions from dealerships. And until then,